Welcome to the green room of DisrupTV. I'm calling in live from Dallas, Texas, the heart of a lot of innovation going on here. But more importantly, I'm here with my amazing co-host, co-founder, Vala Afshar, our amazing producer, Elle, and of course, our guest. So I'm going to introduce you guys in reverse order, ask you where you're coming in from, and more importantly, what are you talking about today in very brief sections. So Jon, where are you? That's a nice background.
Oh, thanks. I have my Las Vegas residency going on right now, so it's pretty awesome. Many happy returns. I want to get into busting the myths of AI projects so we can figure out what defines success and failure right now. And I may have a couple surprising disclosures for you about my own AI philosophy. So let's see what happens.
Oh, wow. Yes. There are residencies forming everywhere in Las Vegas these next few weeks, all the way up until the first week of December. It's kind of cases. Margaret, where are you coming in from? What are we talking about? You have something new to share with us.
Yeah, I'm calling in from Brookline, Massachusetts, and I'm here to talk about managing yourself to lead others.
Yeah. Why great leadership begins with self-understanding. And of course,
Right.
Dolo, where are you coming in from?
Yeah, hey Ray. Yeah, I'm coming in from Lutterworth, which is a small town in the middle of England, UK. And so I'm going to be talking about why we need to be real-time enterprises and how that's going to change how you can operate, how you can react, and what the effects of that's going to be, and how to do it as well, hopefully.
You know, he could be at the summer house or the snooty me man right now, but he's with us. So thank you so much. You've got to choose some good restaurants. Well, hey, let's kick it off. Elle, all yours. Will be 17 to 20 minutes per section. And I guess it's time to kick it off.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, and our distinguished guests your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them live. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO, founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. He's on television just about every day, Fox Business, Bloomberg, CNBC. He's one of the most influential futurists on X at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar, and as he said, he's the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, including his new one, Autonomous, which I need to carry with me, and of course, Boundless, which was a new mindset for unlimited business success. He's already number 3 on Amazon, and he's kicking butt already with him and Henry King on a double dual journey. But executives around the world, pay attention to every one of his inspirational and innovative tweets. And more importantly, when he's not hosting, keynoting, leading events at Salesforce, he's meeting with high-level executives, helping them with their AI, digital, and agentic strategy. And of course, sometimes he's speaking on TV outlets as well, from Bloomberg to ABC and across the board. He's going to be a busy man at Dreamforce next week. But when he's not doing that, he's also posting analyses from this show on ZDNet, so definitely check it out. But you know what? It's not about us. It's about our amazing guests. And of course, we have leading individuals. Who do we have to kick it off today?
We get the best and brightest CEOs to come on Disrupt and share their wisdom with us. No exception here. Dolo Miah, CEO of Linebreak. Dolo is CEO of Linebreak, a specialist systems integrator, helping enterprises thrive as real-time businesses in a dynamic, distributed world. Dolo has 30 years of experience in consulting and system integration, delivering complex programs across multiple industries. His career spans major technology waves from ERP to cloud to edge and now AI, giving Dolo a unique perspective to help businesses harness innovation for technology-enabled transformation. Welcome, Dolo, to DisrupTV.
Thanks, Vala. Thanks, Ray. Nice to be here.
Hey, thanks a lot for being here. And, one of the things I had a pleasure as was speaking with some of your customers recently in London and partners. And we talked about where AI is headed. And as you were talking about, and as we're all seeing, it's heading to the edges. And we're actually seeing decentralized AI pick up. But there's another aspect that was important. While that's happening, there's a real-time imperative in the age of AI. And you've been talking about this a lot, right? The company is based on this premise. You've been a practitioner in the space for some time. Why does real-time matter for the enterprise? What's a little lag? What's a little batch? Come on, why is it such an issue?
Yeah, I mean, this is foundational for me, right? So what we've been, number one, I think if I think about my entire experience in industry, it's been about that business transformation, technology enabled, but it has always been about trying to be faster, better, and more intelligent in terms of understanding what's happening around you, so you can react. So really, if you think about, well, where does that go to in terms of the next stage of the next stage? What we're really doing is we're heading towards being a real-time enterprise. Now, why is that actually? Why do we need to be faster, better, more intelligent? Well, because the world is extremely unpredictable, right? So we have seen major shocks to various economic forces applying on our daily lives, on the lives of our colleagues and businesses, and these shocks are not necessarily predictable, right? So you have to just react really fast. You have to repurpose. You have to understand what's going on and decide how to respond best. And these things are happening at a macro scale. So what we know, for example, if we take the idea of these ideas of black swan events, we've had a few of them, right, over the last few years. Well, let's call them black swan-esque. I don't want to get into the technicalities of what is or what isn't a black swan, but we've seen major shifts in because of geopolitics. We have tensions around the world, and it's kind of highlighted that we have fairly sometimes fragile supply chains. Things go wrong and they have a big effect all around the globe. So you have these kind of black swan type situations, which means you have to be ready to react. You have to be ready to even predict that something might happen and be able to respond to that. But I also see that these aren't just about the big things that are happening in your daily operations in your business. You have mini black swans. Let's call them black cygnets, right? There's this idea that the world of unpredictability is everywhere. So if you're a supply chain or a logistics operator, maybe your truck breaks down halfway on delivering a package. Like, what are you going to do? Can you get another truck, or can you have predicted that truck would have failed, or there would have been a roadblock there that you can get through? So these are my black cygnets, right? So we have the idea of a black swan, macro scale things, and these make the news, right? We all hear about them, and we're all thinking about how we're going to address it. But then you have your daily events. These are not going to make the news, but they're going to hurt your business. So the reason then real time comes into this is that if I'm able to better understand what's really going across my entire enterprise, this is the thing that we've talked about before, Ray, this situational awareness, right? If we can have true situational awareness across the business and then be able to respond very, very fast, intelligently, not just fast, we've got to be cleverer and cleverer as we do that, then we're going to be able to make the right next move. And this is kind of like I said, I've been doing it for my entire career, but it's not actually like during my career. This is outside of technology. The idea of an OODA loop. You've got your observe, orient, decide, and act loop. This has been around since the 70s, and it's a proven thing. If your OODA loop is tighter than your competitors, you're going to outmaneuver them, right? So this is the reason why real time matters. It allows you to operate much more efficiently, respond to events. And there was we've been working on this thesis for a while. It's more than a thesis, because there was a study done by MIT back end of last year. They published a report, which basically said, if we look at the high performing enterprises in terms of being real time and having that situational awareness versus those ones that are not, those higher performing in the upper quartile are seeing massively improved revenue growth, massively improved profitability margins. Now, that is like it's not just about being better, it's about being more profitable, being able to survive and thrive. And that's the point. The world is dynamic, and you have to be very agile if you're going to succeed in that world. So that's why real time, I think, matters at a foundational level.
It's never mattered more, in my opinion, and I love the fact you reference OODA loop. But the words you describe, you use the words like sense, and you use the word understand and act. The operating model is a SUDA, sense, understand, decide, and act model in order to achieve real time. And a perfect example of that is when I'll be with Ray next week in San Francisco, and you're going to see 600 Waymo vehicles that are driverless going around the city. Talk about real-time machine example. And businesses and enterprises are developing this autonomy and so that they can deliver real-time capabilities. Any company that can deliver value at the speed of need is going to win. And these Waymos are sensing across LiDAR, radar, cameras, audio sensing receivers, all these disparate data flows coming in order to operate in a busy city and do it safely in real time. So the machine scale SUDA operating system, I believe, is a prerequisite for you to have a real-time enterprise. But the realization also is that these cars are signal seekers. To be real-time, you can't wait for signals to come in. You have to proactively be able to sense, understand, decide, and act across the entire enterprise. Sales, service, marketing, HR, R&D, supply chain, the entire enterprise. What are some industries that you can give examples of that have this machine scale pseudo operating model, and they truly have, and it's not just, as you mentioned, contextual understanding. When a car in front of you slows down, you slow down. The car stops, you stop. That's contextual. But when the car is synced with your calendar and the car knows you're going to miss your appointment on this current stop and go traffic, the car autonomously changes to a different route. So it has horizontal understanding, not just contextual, but horizontal. And that is the magic superpower, in my belief, of what real-time enterprises can do. What are some companies and industries that are doing that?
Now that's a wonderful example, and I think it's an example of two things as well. The idea that you have independent, autonomous entities, and they're operating in a distributed environment, right? This is not like a closed, nice, safe space. You know, you've got loads of things happening outside of your control, and you've got to be ready to be able to respond. So that's a fantastic example, though. I think that's an example of where I think we can all go in any industry, actually. So for me, the idea of being distributed and the idea of having autonomy in a distributed environment actually applies to every enterprise. When we the world of the enterprise has been massively influenced by cloud scale computing, right? Now, cloud scale computing is a centralized technology, right? And we've been building a lot of systems and processes around this idea of having a whole bunch of compute and data in one place that we can then act on. The Waymo example is like, you can't do that. You're going to have to operate on data where it actually exists and put intelligent reasoning right next to where the event's going to have to happen. You're going to have to change lanes. You're going to have to reroute. Now, an example of another industry. So I think this applies to virtually every industry. But really another good example is in industry, let's call it industry 4.0 or 5.0, but manufacturing as an example, right? Sure. So this is, and I'm going to mention two really quickly, but they are in manufacturing. I mean, this is a lean environment, right? This is about volume and scale and continuously delivering your product through that manufacturing line 24/7. Any disruption creates a huge impact. I mean, there's a report by Siemens that talks about unplanned downtime for a manufacturer in automotive, $2.3 million per hour, right? Per hour that you're down. Now, if you're working in a low margin, high volume environment, that's going to kill your business. You can't have too many of those things happening. So the idea of having the ability to sense and understand is going to have to be right there in your assembly line. wherever it might be across your world, your world of global manufacturing. And today, the global manufacturing and assembly lines are complex environments. They have robotics, they have automated vehicles going around the plant, and you need to know whether each of those things is operating properly and be able to predict before it goes wrong. So I think I like the idea of that horizontal kind of understanding rather than just my context. It's like, what's going to happen next? What will happen over the horizon? This is the ability to predict. So if what we can do is take data, which is being generated everywhere by these robots, these machines, and figure out based on patterns and based on obviously a lot of training that needs to be done, but figure out based on experience what could happen next, i.e. a machine could fail. Then you're able to intercept that prediction, or take that prediction and say, what do I need to do next? I need to call the maintenance folks in now. Maintenance in manufacturing is a scarce resource. These are experts who know how to fix and maintain these machines, and you need to have your maintenance crews in the right place in the right time. That means if you can predict, you can get them to that place to ensure that machine doesn't fail. If you predict that, you can also, going upstream, as you say, it's an end-to-end situation here. You can look at your order fulfillment and order scheduling and say, hey, I know that I'm going to be doing maintenance on this assembly line. My next big order for my number one customer, I'm going to route that to my other factory to make sure that I fulfill my promise. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do here, is like in a manufacturing environment, it is about fulfilling promises every single time, because if you don't, somebody else is going to take that promise and you might never get that customer back, right? So I think this is, like, again, a foundational piece of capability that's going to be needed in many industries. One of the quick example in the UK, water industry. So water is a critical national infrastructure for all countries.
Sure.
It relies on safe water, available water, and value for money for the consumer. We suffer from Victorian age plumbing and networks, and we see this in lots of places, but water waste, so leaks occurring in pipes or pumps failing and not able to deliver, has a huge impact. Water is obviously, like, you need it for life, but it causes huge inefficiencies. And again, it's another environment where if I can sense and react before the event occurs, this is like, I love the horizon thing. Actually, I'm going to take that. This idea of over the horizon, I'm going to know what's going to come before I see it, right? So I think that's another example. But I see it in retail, manufacturing, the logistics, of course. Supply chain and logistics, it's like a whole truly distributed area where there's lots of things happening and they're not all in your control.
To me, this is an essential competitive advantage. I don't really know how you could compete in a hyper-connected knowledge-sharing economy if you don't have real-time capabilities. To me, it's essential.
So practically, how does this work, right? You've got edge to cloud, distributed databases, AI coming into play, right? This is like, we're building the beginnings of situational awareness. This isn't something easy to do. So where do companies get started if they're trying to get to this level? Is it a contained environment like a warehouse, a stadium, a healthcare operation, an office building? Like, how do they do this? Because it's a lot.
Yeah, like the practicality, like the idea and the vision, I think, is A, it's already possible. B, we're already seeing it. You just gave a great example, Vala. Now, what are some of the practical kind of things to think about to actually make this a reality? So one of the things that we see, and we've been talking about this, Ray, as well, is just the sheer amount of data that's being generated, right? So you have, like, if we look at things like the IDC's, sort of data sphere, whether it's right or wrong, I think magnitudinally it's in the ballpark. 200 zettabytes plus the humanity is going to create, in 25. It's going to be more than double by the end of this the decade.
21 zeros for those of you listening when you say zettabyte. For us
21
nerds know that number is big.
I used to say to people, like, hey, what the heck is a zettabyte? Like, and I don't know, it's like 21 zeros. So you absolutely preempted it. Absolutely. What is a zettabyte? Yeah, 21 zeros. It's not actually something we can fathom. But it's not just volume as well, it's the velocity of that data, right? It's coming at you at high speed. And so the answer, going back to my earlier observation is that we cannot centralize the processing of this data. And so that's one practical consideration, is that if you cannot bring the data to where your centralized compute and data storage is, we're going to have to create the ability to put compute and process data wherever it needs to be acted on. And that's the edge, right, Ray? That's the idea of thinking about everywhere where your enterprise operates has to have some intelligence attached to it. And intelligence requires compute and it requires data.
This is Dolo Miah, CEO of Linebreak. If you're ready for the edge, ready for edge AI and a real-time enterprise, he's the man. So check him out, Linebreak. More importantly, thanks a lot for being on the show. It's always great having amazing CEOs
huge
here.
Topic. We could have talked to you for the entire hour. Huge topic. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
To come back next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, pub time. He's ready to go. Oh
yeah,
my God,
Dolo is dialing in from London, so we're eating into his supper. But thankfully, our next guest is more afternoon time zone. So delighted to have Margaret Andrews, author of Manage Yourself to Lead Others. Why Great Leadership Begins with Self-Understanding. This book just came out in September, so incredible new book. Margaret is a seasoned executive, academic leader, speaker, and instructor. Margaret has created and teaches a variety of leadership courses and professional and executive programs at Harvard University. 15 minutes from where I'm dialing in right now.
I've heard of that place.
I've heard of that place. And the founder of the MYLO Center, a private leadership development firm. Margaret's clients include, they're pretty small companies like Amazon, Walmart, United Nations. Too, Margaret only spends time with SMBs. Welcome, Margaret, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on your amazing book.
Yeah,
Thank
congratulations
you.
on your book. Vala, I was looking on Amazon, and Margaret, you have 63 5-star reviews. Vala, think about how hard that is on Amazon. That is like incredible.
It's incredibly hard. Congratulations. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I got through half of the book. I missed the other half. You're right. The advice I'm getting is incomplete, as you mentioned in your I got to finish the rest of the book to have that. But what sets apart a good boss or leader from a great one? Because I think that is the quintessential question.
Yeah, it is. But I find that to tell you doesn't work very well. To tell not just you, but everybody else. It's actually, I think everybody kind of has to discover it themselves. So if you're okay with it, I'll run you through the exercise.
Let's do it. Let's put this on the exercise.
All right. So think of your very best boss. Think of the best boss you've ever had. Could be your current boss, the one right before that,
must be
your first boss, must be anybody. So get one person in mind, and it needs to be somebody you work directly for at one point. Bless you. And it needs to be somebody you worked for. Could be, should not be a celebrity CEO unless you worked for that person, and no fictional characters. So can't be Ted Lasso.
I love Ted Lasso. I love Lasso.
Oh, come on.
So somebody you work directly for. So if you've got that person in mind, now think of all the reasons why you chose that person. And that person over everyone else. So you don't have to tell me, just write them down, because it's actually more effective if you write them down. So write down all the reasons, the big ones, the small ones, break the big ones down into smaller ones, right? I've been doing this for a very long time. And the answers to this question are all over the place, right? They were the smartest person I worked with, or they were really great at search engine optimization or programming in R or whatever. Or, they saw something in me, they developed me, or, it could be all these different things. So make a list, and a long list. And try to go for Vala. I think I see you writing.
I'm typing. I don't write. I type.
All right. So hopefully you've got several, right? Hopefully 5 or more.
I do.
Awesome. You guys work fast. I like this. So now go back and highlight or circle, whatever you want to do, the top 3. And if people are listening, I hope you're doing the same thing. So highlight, circle, whatever the
getting a mini exercise here. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So those are the real reasons, the acid test, right? The most important reasons. It could be the first 3 you wrote, the last 3 you wrote, anything in between.
All right. Do you want to hear them?
No, not yet. But I've done this exercise with thousands of people all over the world, different industries, etc. And the answers to this question almost always fall within 3 buckets. The first bucket is intelligence. And, essentially they were smart, right? The second bucket is around technical and functional skills, where they were the very best at doing pivot tables or, whatever it is, some technical or functional skill. And the third bucket is around interpersonal skills, relationship skills, EI, soft skills, human skills, whatever you want to call them. And so when I do this, the answers, as I say, pretty much always fall in those 3 buckets. And over time, I started noticing that there were huge common themes in every time I did it. The answers kind of came out the same. And so I started keeping track of them. And what I found was over time, that third bucket, those interpersonal skills, 85% of the reasons that people give are in that third bucket. And the remaining 15% on average across all those groups is evenly, the 85% in that third bucket, the remaining 15% evenly split between the first 2.
Wow.
So, right, if they were all of equal importance in being a great leader, we would have had a third. But we don't. And so what that says is not, by the way, that intelligence and technical and functional skills are
No, mine were all
unimportant.
interpersonal.
Yeah, but so those are threshold skills, right? You got to have a certain level of
Yeah.
expertise or and intelligence to get where they are. But what makes the difference between a good boss and a great boss is these interpersonal skills. Right?
Oh, wow.
That's very cool.
That's a
So-
great exercise.
I had smart. I had demanding but fair. I thrive in an environment where people stretch higher than maybe expected. Maybe it's the startup world or just being in high tech. And my current company is a super high performing company, so it's super demanding but fair. And then trustworthiness. Like I can't dive for the loose ball if I don't trust my teammates or my coach, or in this case, we were talking about boss. And also these bosses that I think about they were sponsors more than mentors. They put their political social capital, they were hiring an org, and they were kind enough to extend a hand and help me with the climb. So it was more like a sponsorship role than a mentorship role. Anyway.
That's great.
You say that people who lack self-awareness are more than 6 times more likely to blow up their careers. By the way, being self-aware is a superpower. I mean, I don't know. I hope it is taught, but I'm not sure.
It can definitely.
Okay, so that's good
absolutely
news because I suppose I've spent quite a bit of my time and energy as a former manager trying to help people become more self-aware, and including myself. How do you get on the right track? How do you first of all, how do you detect you're not self-aware? And then how do you course correct?
Yeah, I
Is
think
there electric shock therapy for that?
Yeah, I could have used it. I could have used it.
I think a lot of times, I definitely have people that have come to my executive programs, after as what I say, they've hit a wall. Right. Yeah. And you know what I mean by that. That's, they were denied a promotion, they were let go, they were, given some pretty harsh feedback, etc. A lot of times I think, when things are not going well, that somehow you're just not getting the traction that you used to have, right? Your trajectory is not quite what it was. And I think one of the biggest tells is oftentimes when people feel misunderstood. And the reason for that is very oftentimes because we tend to judge ourselves by our intentions. I intend to be a good teammate. I intend to be a good leader, but other people judge us by our behaviors. And so if our behaviors and our intentions are not in alignment, we're judging ourselves one way and they're judging ourselves another way. And that's why people feel misunderstood. Like, hey, I'm trying to be helpful here, but other people are going, no, you're in the way, or you're, either micromanaging or, too heavy handed or something like that. So that's oftentimes one of those signs.
Can I give you kind of the juxtaposition? So, early in my career, promoted very aggressively, given more span of influence. But I look back and I lacked self-awareness because I was so demanding. But, out of graduate school, no kids, work was life, 12-hour days were normal. Like that was like awesome.
Just
not working
12 hours? My goodness.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I slept in my R&D labs.
What? That's it?
To get projects delivered overnight. But my point was, once I was a people manager, I expected the same. Yeah. And I look back at how much of a jerk I was. By the way, I thought if I spot bonused you or threw you some stock options, it would justify my demanding behavior. And I was a jerk. By the way, projects on time, on budget, continue promoted. VP, SVP, this, that, and the other. But looking back, I wouldn't want to work for me. So it wasn't misunderstood or lack of success. It was just I was unaware that there were men and women that had families, that work wasn't their life. And I just bonused you as a justification for being a jerk. How do you deal with self-awareness when you're actually having success? You think, you're young and naive like I was.
So I think it's one of those things that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? That until you're ready for it, until you're open to it, you can do whatever you want, but it's not really going to do anything.
You're right. So this is when I had kids, by the way, when I realized my life's purpose is no longer work.
That's very oftentimes it's a change in life, or you have a death in the family, right? There's all these different things that make you have a very different perspective. Yeah, great point.
No, I like that. Actually, I was thinking about the leaders, right? And you said that leadership is the human side of business, and I was thinking about my best boss. Back to your point, and they were all interpersonal. She knew that I was special ops, not continuing ops. So she's like, you should never run operations, even though you think you're a good program manager. I'm like, why? He's like, because he's
now a CEO of an incredibly thriving Silicon Valley.
You stabilize it and
about 50 people.
She also said that I know your best qualities. You can figure it out, do it on your own. I just need to give you a few things, and I leave you alone because I know if you've got a problem, you'll come. And so if I micromanage you, you will be in trouble. This will be a fight that's not worth it. I said, oh, that's kind of interesting. And the last thing that she did was always very kind. She always made sure that her people were taken care of. It didn't even matter where or how. It was the little things, and it was just, I mean, she remembered birthdays. She remembered things. She gave me a day off to propose to my wife. That was awesome. I mean, I was like, so it's those little things, and I still love her, Peggy Sawyer. That's her name, but she's out there.
That's great. That's great. And you always remember that person, right? They saw you as an individual. They developed you. And Vala, to your point, a lot of times people say they challenged me appropriately, right? That's like a lot of people like to be, I'm going to say pushed, right? That they like to be, they want to get better, etc. And Ray, one of the most common ones is autonomy, right? That they just kind of said, here's the goal, go for it. You get there however you want to.
We aspire to that autonomous state. I think Vala would say that. But yes. But hey, there is a question here really about why is this creative? Like, how do you get to that creativity for leadership? You say that, some of the best ways is to access this creativity so you can get the best out of people.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So what that means is, creativity, right, can be used in so many different contexts, but just to give you sort of some background, I remember one time hearing Ed Catmull, who formerly head of Pixar.
Yeah, Pixar.
And somebody asked him, now that you're leading the organization, don't you miss being on the creative side? And he said he was kind of stumped by that question, because he said, actually, I think leading people is one of the most creative exercises, right? And I agree with him, because if you think about it, everybody is different, right? That they have different motivations, all of these different wants, different desires, ambitions, etc. And so you've got to figure out not only each one of these people, but how do you get them to work together? And he says that's creative.
It's the art. It's the art.
It is. In fact, you guys, I think, at least Vala, I think you have kids, Ray. I don't know if you do. But
I do. I have 2 as well.
Oh,
so.
awesome. So do you treat them the same?
No, that would be a horrible idea.
Yeah.
They're very different people.
Well, hopefully during the holidays they get equal quality gifts. But anyway,
Yeah, I don't treat them the same, but I do treat them with equal amount
generosity.
of love. Generosity.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that if our own genetic material is different, right? I have 3 kids, and that was my biggest lesson in leadership, was that if my own genetic material is so vastly different, why would I expect the random collection of strangers that shows up at work each day to be even remotely similar, right? So
that is such a strong realization. Yeah, absolutely. I have 3 kids, by the way, all different, different approach to all 3. And they got the best qualities of their mom, so we're in good shape. For me, happiness is knowing your children are good people, and I'm super happy. I'm super happy.
That is what the biggest lesson or the biggest leadership thing you can do in life, right? Is to raise good kids.
That at the end, that's I'm not going to remember how much money I made. I'll remember all the people that generously opened doors for me. I remember every name. I remember every name of every boss I had that gave me opportunities. Sometimes even I didn't even deserve it. I don't think they just somehow saw something in me I didn't. This is hard work. Like self-understanding. I said, I tell the 3 kids, if you want an easy life, work on hard problems. And I consider working on being radically transparent and honest with yourself, to not have a sense of entitlement, to not adopt a zero-sum mindset. Like it's so much, I think that there's so much dimensionality when I think of people who I consider to be highly self-aware. And I honestly think it's a superpower. I would say maybe 1 out of 10 people I truly think are exceptionally self-aware, maybe even less. How do you do this? Like, how do you do
opened up so much. How does that happen? What a great desk we have.
Listen, as I reflect through my career and some of the really crazy mistakes I made, I definitely was. I'm not even sure if I'm self-aware now, but I'm trying. I think this is more than Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. I think this is maybe exception to that. But how do you position? Bobby Knight used to say, famous basketball coach, position yourself to be in position to score. How do you position yourself to have appreciation and sense of and recognition that's being self-aware is important?
Yeah, so I actually call it self-understanding, which is in my mind, and not to everybody, right? I just use this word. To me, self-awareness has a lot to do with emotional intelligence, and oftentimes means that you understand your emotions, you understand what emotion you're having in the moment. And that is part of self-understanding, but I think of it a little bit broader, and that is understanding your backstory, your context. So it's the people, the ideas, the events, the situations that have shaped you as an individual. So these are early childhood influences like parents and siblings and teachers and grandparents and, all of that kind of stuff, but just continued all throughout your life. It was your college roommate. It was, the person that first broke your heart, right? These are people that helped you, people that hurt you. Lucky and unlucky accidents and things like that. It's understanding your values. It's understanding your own personal definition of success in your personal life and your professional life, not society's, not your parents, but yours. It's understanding your values and really, really what drives you. As opposed to, I have a couple of different questions to help people understand values, because we don't usually think about those things. So when you ask people about them, they don't know what to say, right? So they immediately go, well, family, right? It's always a family, because it's one of those, well, of course. But, different people have them in different orders, and that's totally fine. You don't have to have what society wants you to have.
Do you find your students today compared to maybe 10 years ago. Is it harder to go through this exercise of self-understanding, given the fact that we may all have some acute ADD, given the noisy world that we're part of? I don't want to imply you have it. I have it. It's not quite acute.
Yeah, I don't know that it's harder or easier, but I do think that our attention spans are shorter and people are more, they have, the word I want to use is kind of a shorter fuse to frustration.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Because if I can't have it immediately, I get frustrated. So I think that is something I have seen.
That is so true. With 3 kids, I know when the DoorDash person is maybe a few minutes late, there's chaos in the house. That's 3 digital natives who live their life on their phone, and their remote control for life is this. So, but no, I get that. It's great. It's great. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
On your book. It's amazing. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, no, Margaret, thanks so much. And, between vulnerability, leadership, where we're headed, I mean, this is going to be crazy. I think we're going to need it even more when we start managing agents, right? We're the last generation of managers to manage just humans. It's going to include agents going forward. So
it's going to be an interesting ride. Let's see.
We'll see how we program the agents. Like maybe they'll have more self-awareness.
Wouldn't that be nice?
We're going to be looking forward to more books from Margaret. We need help. So
we're going to need help.
Keep
Margaret,
well, thank you guys.
Author of Manage Yourself to Lead Others: Why Great Leadership Begins with Self-Understanding. Get it on Amazon while you can. Can't miss the cover. It's an amazing read. So thanks a lot.
Great. Take care.
Happy Friday.
Cheers. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. I felt like we went through a self-therapy session like for free. It's awesome.
Well, our next guest, who's a first ballot Hall of Fame Disrupt inductee, always makes me try to better understand the world that I'm a part of. Jon Reed, co-founder of Diginomica. For those of you who may not know, although I'm a contributor to Diginomica, so hopefully you all know about Diginomica. Diginomica is a media and analyst firm providing insights for business leaders about the digital enterprise, focusing on how technology and digital transformation affect real-world business and public services. Real, tangible, evidence-driven media publication. Jon is an enterprise analyst. He's an AI demystifier. We're going to talk about that. And a multimedia instigator. Both him and Ray are instigators in a good way. Jon, in order to self-understand, you sometimes have to instigate. Jon is author of 5 books himself. He doesn't usually come on and talk about his books, but earlier this year, his early publication was Reaching the Informed B2B Buyer, The Case for a Different Framework. That was his 5th book. Jon is, again, a DisrupTV Hall of Fame future inductee. He has to retire in order to make it to the Hall of Fame. Welcome back, Jon, to DisrupTV.
Thanks, guys. You push me out of my comfort zone every single time in the best way possible because I don't want to let you down on this show. And so you push me, and I really appreciate that. And your guests pushed me too, to be totally honest with you, because those guests were just fantastic. And now I'm like, how can I possibly live up to that? But that's part of the fun of this show is pushing myself a little bit. So
thank you, sir.
Well, yeah, let's start with this, right? We're moving to talking head format. That's why we're all like this. But the bottom line is actually AI hype, man. Are we in the bubble? Are we not in the bubble? Where are you seeing this? Like, you make the call. So,
all right. Well, it's kind of a complicated question. I have so much I want to cover with you guys. How am I going to do this? Well, so look, there's a macroeconomic bubble in AI that has to do with the fact that consumer AI doesn't really have a viable business model when you consider that companies like OpenAI, their biggest use cases are things like search and therapy. Therapy is one of the biggest use cases. How do you monetize that? Plus, how do you price that in? So there are these macro issues that create a lot of economic pressure because the only ones really making money are the ones selling the shovels, the hyperscalers, the NVIDIAs. But in an enterprise context, I think while LLMs and agents do have limitations, they also have legs. And we're starting to see that this fall. And so I do think that a steady enterprise demand protects some of that bubble a little bit. And then on the other side, you have people fantasizing about AGI. And as long as they fantasize about that, the bubble doesn't collapse. The reason is that AGI, if you have truly cognitive systems that truly understand the way we do and communicate the way humans do, that's $1 trillion market. So people aren't going to let go of that easily. Now, having said that, that creates a lot of disruption, speaking of DisrupTV, for humans if we ever get there. But I don't really want to talk about that today, because what I want to tell you about today is what I'm learning this fall on the ground in enterprise projects. So
okay, so let's go. I wanted to ask you, you've deeply immersed yourself the last 2-3 years, maybe longer, but certainly the last 2-3 years in the world of AI. Looking for tangible evidence, looking for success and failures, and people who are courageous enough to talk about their failures. What have you learned this year that perhaps changed your point of view on this whole technology, this landscape, as compared to when you started the journey? And you've been on this journey for a decade, but I mean deeply immerse yourself the last couple of years. Is there any new learnings? Have you changed your mind on anything? Did you have a blind spot on any coverage and research area? What was an aha moment that you may want to share in the last 12 months or so?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think to a large extent, my research has sort of validated a lot of my gut feelings that these tools are powerful, but in some ways limited, and that there's a lot of exciting things going on in AI that have nothing to do with the current LLM technology. But what I will say is that I've learned a whole lot about what it takes to implement these projects successfully. And unfortunately, what I've also found, Vala, is that there's just so much misunderstood hype that's preventing us from doing that. So for example, just to pick on one thing, the so-called MIT study that 95% of products never get out of pilot was such a widely distorted and misunderstood study. But what was really interesting about that study that so many people overlooked, and I wrote about this a bit, is that the folks that wrote that study are actually AI advocates, not skeptics.
Yep.
And what they were trying to do in that study was to say, here's all these products that aren't doing well, but the 5% that are doing well, let's have a look at those. And Vala, to answer your question, the 5% that are doing well are really interesting. And so I've spent a whole lot of time looking at that. And just to tell you sort of the ultimate conclusion of what I learned there is that ultimately enterprise AI is kind of leading the way in terms of getting better results from this technology. And the reason is that enterprises are typically risk averse and conservative in ways that really ruin technology adoption. But in this case, it actually helps, because what they're doing is they're constraining these technologies into compound architectures. So when you look, for example, at really good use cases, I'll just give you one example. I'm not going to name the vendor, but this was a use case I was judging. It's not live at massive scale yet, so this is typical, but it is live in a smaller, more pilot oriented, but it's in production now. So it's actually being run.
Yep.
And what it was a project that basically combined agentic AI with deterministic RPA workflows, with human supervision, with accessing all kinds of ERP data and workflows as well. And the impact of that was really potent. And you say, oh, well, that's not like AGI. Who gives a crap? The point is, it did a whole lot of cool stuff. And so the agentic piece, just to answer that question, it does really cool stuff. It makes real-time triage decisions as per your first guest, applying business rules, escalating only when necessary. Yeah. Then you have your deterministic steps built in, your reconciliation and ERP, which still needs to be compliant, has nothing to do with agents. And the impacts are powerful, including decreases of maintenance efforts, up to 80%, freeing up engineers for higher value work. Now, one of the really big things that's coming up now is, what are you going to do when you free up time? And I think companies are really going to be defined by that, because some companies are going to really pursue this efficiency headcount reduction thing until they basically hollow themselves out in a mechanistic rush to the bottom. Other companies are going to take that time that they're freeing up and apply it to difference-making stuff, as per your last guest, in terms of sophisticated relationship stuff and other forms of human creativity, ingenuity that are really going to transform them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the companies that kick ass and do that.
This sounds like one of our Supernova Award finalists, actually, I think.
Yeah, right? And the cool thing, Vala, is it's starting to happen, not at the scale that we anticipate soon, but it's starting to happen, and it's working.
So are you more optimistic or more pessimistic about the impact of software that has autonomy, agency, can actually do the work, digital colleague, labor, whatever you want to call it? It can execute on your behalf unsupervised. What is your feeling in terms of the trajectory of adopting that capability and what it means for someone like Ray and I, who just had kids graduating from college, 22-year-olds entering the workforce? What does that mean? Is there a demand for average anymore, given the fact that speed, scale, and intelligence is moving at a different level?
So I've been doing a series of workshops on AI with college students and how to respond to this. It's been really fascinating to get their feedback. I don't like talking about autonomous enterprises without looking hard at the pros and cons, because every company is going to look at this differently. Ultimately, they're going to want autonomy toggles that control that carefully. And generally, autonomy needs to function within some constraints at this moment in time. But what young people, I think, are getting scared about is they're wondering if they have a future at all. And I think that's why the talks we're having today are so important, because what they bring out is that it's not just a matter of learning how to work with the machines. It's also cultivating your uniquely human characteristics that are going to allow you to do that. So I'll give you one example. Yeah. I had some people in my last workshop that were like, I don't want to go into math anymore because there won't be any math left to do. And what I said is, you don't surrender your domain expertise to these systems. These systems appear expert, but they're not expert in the way that a true human domain expert, connected to community, connected to new problems. I said, you can harness these systems to do some of your drudge work and then go solve new problems in science, medicine, math, solve problems that have never been solved, and don't get discouraged. And that's what I worry about with young people, is they're going to be too intimidated by the autonomy you're describing, not to realize that there's still a really important role on top of that for humans to play.
That's a great point. And I think the lens should be focusing on not, when we talk about productivity or profit and margin. I think the most successful companies in the future are going to be in the waste management business, meaning they're going to look at waste in their business, overutilizing a resource, underutilizing a resource, assigning the wrong resource. All waste is costly, but not all costs are wasteful. Focus not on the line item and eventually have value atrophy because all you're doing is reducing cost by dollar amount, instead of looking at how wasteful is it for a graduate at 22 to come out from Duke, like, Ray's son, graduating from it, and then being assigned repetitive, mundane, non-creative, non-agency work.
Oh, it's pattern recognition training.
And in a blink of an eye, they've spent 10 years in a career doing something that frankly could have been done by software so they can actually reach their full potential. Remove waste. And I'm telling you, a lot of companies, including mine, are identifying incredible amount of waste that exists in our business that frankly should be done by something else. Go ahead, Ray.
I'm going to switch topics. They're taking over the world, man. Robotics, physical AI.
Yeah.
There we go. So
we can learn a lot from humanoid robots, drones, and autonomous vehicles. Yeah, for sure.
So John, let's talk more about machines. How do we thrive among these machines? Are we going to be? Do we have mission? Are we going to have purpose? Are we going to be indispensable?
Before you go, if that's a food delivery, today 5 million men and women in the U.S. participate and develop income through ride sharing and food delivery. 5 million. 5 million. And so close your eyes, take it to 2030. Let's go 5 years from now. How much percentage of that work population is going to be impacted by autonomous vehicles delivering people,
or drivers,
food,
or
whatever?
truck drivers too.
I'm not even talking about truck drivers. I'm just talking about ride sharing and food delivery. Yeah. So this is societal impact. Like this is like Innovator's Dilemma, Clay Christensen, my favorite sentence. You may hate gravity, but gravity doesn't care.
Like between two S-curves, baby.
This is real. Yeah. So I'm so happy you're doing workshops, because for a young college person to dismiss math as like a muscle that they should develop, I think we need to get ahead of that, because that's just
but John, unfortunately,
how do we find purpose?
How do we find purpose?
Yeah. How do we make ourselves feel indispensable?
Yeah, I've been obsessed with this topic, and there's not like one right answer to this, but one of the biggest things is kind of a dual track of obviously learning the technology as well as you can in terms of like the fluency of sort of where machines begin and where you begin, and kind of blurring the barrier there, absolutely learning the tools, understanding the tools. I talk a lot about the paradox of AI leadership because unfortunately, a lot of executives leading organizations don't understand the technology well enough. So a big part of it is getting under the hood. This is not like an iPhone where you trust the phone to work for you. The more you understand about how these technologies deliver results and get deep into that, the better you can understand where it threatens you and where it doesn't. Because when you started talking about robots and machines and cars, I started thinking about all the ways that technology isn't there yet, because I know what the problems are. But other people are going to be like, oh my God, they're going to be gone in 2 years, which they are not, because I studied that, but it took me 3 years of my life. So some of it is,
Waymo surpassed Lyft drivers in San Francisco this year.
Yeah. But
they
not all over.
They went from 500,000 miles to 4 million in just the last 12 months, 8x.
But that doesn't mean that's going to be all over the country in 1 year. And that's a longer conversation. Sure, and they've been very, very heavily trained on that specific environment. But anyhow, I don't want to get into that.
Boston, Atlanta, Boston, it's happening, right? I mean, we're seeing
but I don't want to have, it's going to take longer than you think, but I don't want to have a debate about that right now. The more important thing is that from a human perspective, so part of it is working with the machines, understanding the machines, but part of it is competing against the machines, right? So you need to also understand what they can't do well and don't surrender too much ground to them, Ray. So for example, a lot of people are surrendering their original thinking and creativity to the machines and saying the machines will do the creation for me. That's vastly oversimplified, and that's the wrong approach. No. Don't surrender your domain expertise to the machines. Instead, redefine domain expertise in terms of a networked connection of humans solving problems together, which machines cannot do. Critical thinking is obviously core to all of that. And what you just said earlier about the radical transparency of self-awareness, like that also is huge in terms of all the soft skills that emanate from that. So the point is, you don't surrender any of that. You say, I'm going to work with the machines, but you know what? I'm also competing against them because they're trying to take autonomy from me. Well, I'm going to take something back from them. So you got to
rage against the machine from Jon Reed.
Well, you need both. You got to embrace and rage. It's the paradox of it, right? You have to have both. And
you're right. There is a tug of war here that we got to recognize. Maybe that's part of self-understanding, in that if you feel there's erosion of agency with humans, as intelligent software starts dominating jobs to be done and they're actually doing the jobs, we have to figure out how to stay relevant, how to be indispensable. And that's going to be the question that I think we're going to all struggle with as a society, and certainly business leaders, because the language of business is finance. And I have to tell you, the numbers that support the level of scale and productivity and efficiency that technology can bring, boards aren't going to ignore that. Business leaders aren't going to ignore that. They're going to be compensated for it.
For sure. But these machines ultimately have pretty jagged intelligence. They'll blow you away in one moment, and then they'll shock you with their stupidity and lack of understanding in the next. And the jagged intelligence is good, actually, because it creates an opportunity for the rest of us to buy time to figure out how we're going to thrive in this environment. And Ray, I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to CCE because I'm going to be there. I'm flying out. And I'm making that happen because I need to be a part of the conversations you're having there. And the reason for that is because we all need to figure out this problem together. It's not something you can solve on your own. And I hope that we can foster more of these kinds of conversations we're having today, because you can't solve this in isolation. It's too profound. It's too big.
Actually, the sneak peek to what we're doing is we're going to hope to have a manifesto by the time we walk out of there. If we do it right. And that's why it's very important you're there, John.
Are you going to make people sign a wall? Or how are you going to preserve?
No, we're going to create a real-time manifesto. That's part of the programming here about what it should be. But I'm looking forward to having you there, John. We have to connect the dots. We're definitely going to be there. And of course, we're here with Jon Reed, co-founder of Diginomica, more importantly, a thought leader in the space, and of course, a digital ethicist.
Can I give you two more quick things?
Yeah,
two more quick things. All right,
very quick. I had a bunch of myths of AI projects for you, but one I want to give you before we leave is the myth that having humans in the loop destroys ROI. That is not the case. It's about how you strategically deploy humans in the right way in those processes. So that's a bunch of BS. And number two, one of the personal revelations I've had amidst all of this stuff, which is also about the industry challenges we're all facing right now, is I'm just trying to be a little kinder as a person. I'm trying to go in each day and try to look for how I can make other people's lives a little better, because I feel like the systems that create support for people are breaking down in a lot of cases. And I'm really challenging myself to not be in my own head all the time with my ambitions and my preoccupations, and try to help people. And I do it when I'm on a plane. I do it in the airport. I do it when I'm walking around town. I'm trying to be alert to that stuff, because I feel like some of our resources need to be deployed towards making the world better right now.
RAK.
Intentionally being good.
RAK, random acts of kindness. Random acts of kindness.
Don't
We
make
used
it
to do
so
that.
random, though. Don't make it so random. Make it more.
He's making it intentional.
Yeah,
He's
it's
making
an
it
intentional thing. It's really surprising, because you realize how much you lose that, and you're like, well, if I get caught up in this noise cycle that you referred to, Vala, what am I going to accomplish for myself, my family, for other people? And so that challenge of yourself to always try to make people's lives better. I know it comes naturally to you and Ray, but it doesn't come naturally to me. So I'm trying to do better.
That's bullshit. You've been on this show more than any other guest, and you free up your time to share your wisdom. That's a sign of generosity. People learn from you. You inspire me. You know, you're the guy I go to if I want, and you invite me to write on your platform, which is the ultimate generosity, knowing how much of a shitty writer I am. So thank you for everything that you do.
Jon, thank you. We'll
you
talk
for
about
everything
intentional acts of kindness at our event. We've got to go. Time is not on our side. It's time to wrap up. So thanks a lot, Jon, for being here and always being one of our favorite guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Jon. He is my favorite guest.
What? I thought I was your favorite guest.
You're my favorite co-host.
Oh, okay. I'll take that.
You might not be my favorite DisrupTV colleague, because we have a world-class producer that I really like, because she's like second to none. So I don't know. You might be number 2 on my list of DisrupTV employees.
Okay, we only have 3 employees, guys.
All right. Next week, I might not even make the list. You're right. At least you're number 2. Next week, DisrupTV episode 415. Again, we're going to feature maybe 100 authors this year on the show. Amy Osmond, Ryan Westfoot, and Vala Afshar, co-authors of the RevOps Advantage, How to Maximize Your Revenues Team's Potential. Remember, language of business is finance, and revenue is the most important part of that equation.
Most important.
And then Martin Dublin, author of Blind Spotting, How to See What's Holding You Back as a Leader. I love that. A continuation of self-understanding. We're going to talk about blind spotting. Well, if it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for watching. Tune in next Friday, and we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.
Happy Friday.